All right, ladies and gentlemen, so much to get to in such a short amount of time. We're privileged once again to be joined, and we're always privileged, but when she's in studio, it's all the more exciting. Dr. Alveda King, civil rights activist and niece of the late civil rights icon, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So good to see you.
Hi, Steve.
Thank you for coming in. I understand you're just back from a visit to the FBI?
I was actually with the FBI. I have a dear friend who's a chaplain with the FBI, and he brings me over to their offices from time to time to pray and to just encourage the officers, and I'm glad to do it.
That's great. And what did you, a little synopsis maybe of what you said to them, or did they ask you anything? How'd that interaction work?
Well, actually, the director, Mr. Comey, has done a very inspirational speech, and it's as strong as some of my uncle's speeches. And people say, well, I thought the FBI didn't like your family. That's not even really true at all. And they protect us, and I wanted to encourage them. And he's encouraging us all to put aside things like racism and all that and to deal with the issues at hand.
Interesting. You were talking about his speech the other day where he said everybody's a little racist.
That we need to look inside and work on it.
Does that go, do you think he meant both races, all races?
I think he means everybody, every person. As a matter of fact, an African-American woman in the audience said that. She says, well, I need to look at myself rather than just keep looking at the other person.
All right, I want you to hear something right now. You know, Rudy Giuliani made a whole big mess. I think he had every right to say what he said, but I want you to listen to Louis Farrakhan's response, and here we go.
How did you grow up, Giuliani? A privileged cracker? Or I should say, a privileged devil.
When you hear that stuff, cracker, devil, what do you think?
Well, my uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., my dad, his brother, Reverend A.D. King, Daddy King, they would say that we must speak truth. We must do love and forgiveness. I remember when my grandmother, Mama King, was shot in Ebenezer Baptist Church. The man who shot her, my brother chased him out and got him down to the ground and began to pound on him. They apprehended the man. They took my brother away. Daddy King said, that's not what we do. He went to the jail and said to the man, son, you shouldn't have done that. That was my wife. But I'm going to pray for you.
Wow. So what do you say to Farrakhan?
So Farrakhan,
who's a minister?
calling him a
minister,
devil and all of that, you know, he should have just said, you know, that's not what you needed to have said, and given a better example and taken the high road rather than fanning the flames. It just fans the flames.
All right, let's talk about fanning the flames. Melissa Harris Perry of MSNBC. 2 days ago, she's at Cornell University speaking at I want to get this right, an annual Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative lecture. And I'm not going to play the bite. I'm going to just tell you what she said, talking about Trayvon Martin. She says, I hope Trayvon whooped the blank out of George Zimmerman at a Martin Luther King event.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., during his lifetime, said we must learn to live together as brothers, and I added sisters, or perish as fools. So hoping that somebody beats somebody and does all that to them, that is not going to express the human side of learning to live together. So it's not the fist. It can't be the violence of tongue and fist and weapons. It has to be words that will heal and reach each other, and not just beating the man, you know.
Was it particularly offensive, being that it was at an event that bore your uncle's name? Would you tell her, what would you say to her?
I would ask her, did she read any of his messages? Even the new movie Selma, you know, they bowed down in prayer before violence. They didn't take fist and tongue and come back at their oppressors. So I'm really wondering, is she a scholar or a student of Martin Luther King Jr.?
All right. I hate to go so rapid fire, okay, but there's so many things to get to. The James O'Keefe and Project Veritas, we played some of this yesterday, and he's coming on with us tomorrow, did an expose on Al Sharpton, what people think of him, whether it's the Trayvon Martin Foundation, Eric Gardner's daughter complaining that she was, you know, being harassed by them. Why didn't you put the National Action Network a stamp on your flyers? He's all about this, they said. Does any of this surprise you about Al Sharpton?
Well, you were kind enough to allow me to talk about him at the height of Ferguson and what was happening in Staten Island. And it's not the rabble-rousing or fanning the flames of hatred and all of that, but I just said, what about knowing, K-N-O-W, the message of peace for justice? And so I think that people are now finding out what his agenda happens to be.
And should the president keep having him over at the White House as a close advisor? Does that make any sense to you?
I'm not understanding why the president is not accepting our invitation. When I say our, the voices of reason from the African American community. I think Newsmax published about 100 of our names.
Yeah.
And he should call some of us over to the White House and let us have a conversation.
That would make a lot of sense. Please come back as often as you want, because
Thank you so
it's
much.
an honor to know you and to talk to you, as always. All right, folks, we're coming back with Republican political consultant. You know you love her. Mary Matlin will be here. Her take on lots of events of the day. Don't miss it.